What's going on, everybody? JTISREBORN here, and welcome to another edition of my Batman the Animated Series reviews. This time we're going to be taking a look at episode number 84, simply known as Deep Freeze. You're going to a cold, dark place, Batman. Sorry, I just felt the need to do my Mr. Freeze impersonation. I'll stop it now.
Okay, so now that I got that out of the way, I always felt the need to do that. This episode is known as Deep Freeze. It is the final appearance in Batman the Animated Series, well, in terms of episodes, featuring Mr. Freeze. It's set after the continuity of Heart of Ice, which is an amazing episode written by Paul Dini. This episode shows Mr. Freeze being broken out of, his cell, and basically he's carried off to, some asshole named, Grant Walker, who's the head of this place called Oceana. We also get a cameo from this guy, Carl Rossum, who was in, Heart of Ice and his Silicone Soul, that entire trilogy of episodes. So there was that, and then turns out he's just I sold to this guy named Grant Walker. He goes, Oceana, and Mr. Freeze just I'm not going to help you. This Grant Walker guy wants to be immortal. Surprised he never heard of the Lazarus Pits. I mean, that probably would have helped him, but I guess not. He decides, Mr. Freeze is truly immortal, so I'm going to use him. I'm going to be like him. I'm going to walk the earth. I'm going to freeze Gotham City, walk around without a suit, yada, yada, yada. His plan is to use Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze doesn't want him, and then it turns out that he actually saved Nora Freeze. Nora Freeze is in a cryostasis. With my, money and infrastructure and resources, you can bring her back to life. And then Mr. Freeze is just you know what? Fine, I agree with you. I'll help you out. Mr. Freeze is cold-hearted, obviously. He's mean. He's just he doesn't care. All he cares about is his wife, Nora Freeze. That is his motivation. That's what drives him, and so on and so forth. So Grant Walker gets put into a suit just to become Freeze, and then he gains a little strength, but, Batman eventually stops him. Mr. Freeze stops him too. Batman tries to, save Mr. Freeze, and then basically, Freeze is no. He freezes Robin so that Batman has to be forced to save him. He's just just let me be with my wife as we both die. And I'm that's kind of a sad moment, but, obviously there's still more to come in terms of the show. So, anyways, Mr. Freeze gets, he crashes, the whole, Oceana or whatever it is, falls down, and Mr. Freeze is there with his wife. But, as you all know, he manages to save Nora, and they drift off into the Arctic, which sets up the animated movie, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, which, I already did a review on that, fully written, reviewed, everything like that. You can check that out in the links below. It's JTISREBORN Reviews, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. It's, a pretty solid animated movie, not as good as Phantasm, but, or Return of the Joker, but I think it's better than, say, Mystery of the Batwoman. It's very short, but, more thoughts on that, so you can go check that out. So, yeah, last time we see Mr. Freeze in this, the animated series, and then, obviously you have, Batman Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, and then so on and so forth. So, anyways, so that's that, yeah. It's kind of neat to see how Mr. Freeze brings back Nora, and, yeah, where do I rank this episode? It's nowhere near as good as Heart of Ice. Heart of Ice is a fantastic episode. Mark Hamill is just a piece of shit as Ferris Boyle. The way they retold Mr. Freeze, they re-established him as this, spectacular villain in that episode is phenomenal. And it's, it's definitely top 20 episode for me. There's so many good ones, but, Heart of Ice is the best Mr. Freeze episode. I think, that's better than the movie, Batman Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. But I do think that Batman Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero is stronger than the episode Deep Freeze. But, it's just, yeah. So it's still a solid episode. So, yeah, my thoughts are kind of scattered right now. Because after this, I got one more episode, and then the lost episode, and then I'm done. I'm just trying to, get through these, watch them, give my thoughts on them, and have fun with it. So I'm just going to take my time, and enjoy this last episode. It's going to be fun. So, yes. Alright. Those are my thoughts on Deep Freeze. I don't really care too much for the villain. I like how it sets up the animated movie, which they actually did delay because it was supposed to come out sooner. But because of how bad Batman and Robin was, they had to delay the movie. So, yeah, you get the point. What else can I say? It's cool to see Nora Freeze back and to know that, she's going to be okay. Or at least, it's going to give Freeze a chance to save her. And, yeah. That's all I really have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Deep Freeze. Like I said, I don't think it's as good as Heart of Ice. Like, Heart of Ice was just a much stronger episode, but Mr. Freeze is great in both of them, like especially this one too, just that, maniacal, cold-hearted voice that he has. And Michael Ansara, he's like, my wife Nora, and he just does that voice, and it's just so chilling. It's great. So, yep, great in this episode is Mr. Freeze. The plot around him's not quite as good, but, I'm just glad to see this take on Mr. Freeze again, because this take on Mr. Freeze is by far the best. So, yep, there's that. Thank you all for watching this. I hope to see you guys in the comments below. Like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell for more notifications. Follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/SeanJTKing, and I'll talk to you all later. Take care now. Bye-bye then.